So, Tyson Fury against Alexander Usyk has been scrapped. Shock horror. What this is a tale of a narcissistic personality. And finally, the world is waking up to see exactly how toxic and how debilitating such personalities can be when it comes to everyday life. And we're seeing it in the midst of the heavyweight boxing division. So Tyson Fury, the self-proclaimed Gypsy King, the man who will fight anyone born from his mother, the guy who's not interested in money, the guy who is a Spartan warrior. What else has he said? I mean, we could go through it all, couldn't we? But the fact of the matter is that we're seeing this guy for who he truly is. And what he is a manipulator, a liar. He is afraid of putting his legacy on the line against Alexander Usyk. He doesn't back himself to be able to win that fight. And what he has done, ironically, is he's taking a bigger defeat than he ever could have done in the ring by shamelessly and so obviously pricing himself out of the fight. This is a tale of ego. This is a tale of weakness. This is a tale of essentially an attempt to control the entire narrative, the entire sport, to have everything center around this one individual to the exclusion of and at the sake of the sport as a whole. So why did he think he could get away with it? The reason for that is because he's had so much support in his career. He's gotten so much adulation for doing so little in the ring. Tyson Fury's legacy, if he has one, and that's very much up for debate right now, but the legacy that people perceived him as having or being in the midst of achieving was based a lot on his own personal narrative, the things that he'd done outside of the ring, his battles with mental health. He also took these showy fights where he was an obvious underdog. He fought Vladimir Klitschko. It's said that he fought him in his own backyard. Of course, he fought him in Germany. People might be aware of the fact that Vladimir Klitschko is from the Ukraine, although he was known to fight in Germany fairly regularly. But he fought him and he beat him. And that was an impressive victory, although it was quite a boring fight. He didn't give him his rematch, but of course he had mental health issues, right? So we give him a pass for that. He then spends the next 2.5 years insulting those who go on to carry on the division, most notably Anthony Joshua, who went on to collect 3 of the 4 belts, unifying along the way. He went on to fight his mandatories, and from 2017 until, of course, that fateful night in Madison Square Garden in 2019, Joshua was a real flag bearer for the sport. And Fury couldn't stand it, could he? Every 2 seconds, sniping in the background, blown up, massively obese, overweight. All he could bring himself to do was to have a go at Joshua at any opportunity that presented itself. Eventually, Fury gets what he wants. AJ loses. His star begins to wane, and he's never quite been able to get it back since. But what has been left in the midst of AJ's fall? The rise of Tyson Fury? What is this rise based on? I mean, let's be honest about it. It's only really based on beating one opponent in Deontay Wilder on 3 occasions. He fought his mandatory in Dillian White after he'd already been knocked out spectacularly by Alexander Povetkin, who at the time was 41 years of age. Apart from that, he's fought no one of note. And this is in the period of what is getting on for 5 years now. His return to the ring was back in 2018. So what has Fury really done for the sport? What has he ever really done? Win against Klitschko, which I've already spoken about. The 3 defeats of Deontay Wilder. Even then, I'm giving him too much credit. The narrative, this goes to show how deep the narrative of the Fury runs. He didn't win that first fight, did he? It was a draw. in that first fight against Deontay Wilder, but it was framed as if it was a win. And the framing is so successful that even I, someone who would regard himself as being a heavy Fury critic, has, to a certain extent, bought into it. But what we've also seen is a series of opportunities missed. Not making the AJ fight and going on to fight Deontay Wilder for that third fight. And it's argued, of course, that he was forced into it. There was an arbitration. There's shadiness around that because it seemed to me, and I think to a lot of other people observing the situations, if Wilder wanted his step-aside money and Fury didn't want to pay it. And when you look at the build-up to that fight between Fury and AJ that was being negotiated, Fury was talking about the fact he was drinking 21 pints of lager a day, or something within the region of that. He looked depressed, and he looked very much uninterested and unmotivated by the AJ fight. He was mooting the idea of a Wilder fight before the arbitration was concluded. Once it was concluded, deal was signed, straight away was in the ring with Wilder a third time. He backs himself against Wilder, and after he beat him so spectacularly in the second fight, one can see why. But he didn't fight AJ for Undisputed in 2021. He didn't fight Usyk for Undisputed in 2022 because he insisted on having a warm-up fight, even though the step-aside money was made available for AJ and for Dillian White so that the Undisputed fight could happen between Fury and Usyk in 2022. But he didn't want it. And now, once again, Undisputed has been put in front of him and he's walked away from it. He's not interested in becoming Undisputed champion. He's not interested in the boxing public. He's not interested in boxing at all. And this is all because of his toxic personality, his need for everything to boil around him. He must be at the center. He must have all the attention. He must have all the adulation. He's not got any respect. He's not got any personal or professional respect for his competitors. Alexander Usyk is a great competitor, unified cruiserweight champion. He's got 3 of the 4 belts, and he's been treated like an absolute schmuck by Fury. Treated as if he doesn't count, treated as if he has no value, treated as if he is there purely to be exploited. He's a stepping stone, he is an ant, he is a bug. No respect. But contradictorily, he also fears Usyk. He fears that he could be beaten by him. He could be outboxed, outskilled, outmaneuvered. So what is this? What is this all about? This toxic personality. Someone who is a genuine competitor will want to put it on the line. They want to see how good they are. They want to test themselves against the best. That's what AJ did. He tested himself. He tried to get the Wilder fight. Wilder didn't want it. He tried to get the Fury fight. Fury didn't want it. More recently, with the negotiations between Fury and AJ, I don't think either of them wanted it. The only people that seemed to want that fight were the Warrants. But when AJ was flying high, and even after defeat to Andy Ruiz, when he got his belts back, he wanted that Fury fight. Fury didn't want it. He's never wanted the Usyk fight either. He doesn't want to test himself against the best. He finds someone who he thinks he can beat, whether it be Wilder, he thinks he can beat him because Wilder's so limited, whether it be Chisora or Tom Schwartz or Otto Wallin, it doesn't matter. The whole point is Fury will fight someone if he believes he beats them. If he's got any fear whatsoever that it could go the other way, he doesn't get in the ring. He doesn't want to test himself. It's just an attempt to gain adulation in the cheapest and easiest way possible, to turn boxing into a circus to serve his name. And anyone who gets involved with him becomes part of that circus. The amount of time that AJ's team lost trying to make the fight with Fury is a great shame if you're a serious competitor. You don't want to waste that time. The amount of time that Usyk has wasted trying to make this fight with Fury is also a great shame. Anyone who gets in the ring with Fury becomes part of the Fury circus. That's just the way it is. He's got to be at the center. He's got to dictate. He's got to pull the strings. And everyone else has got to dance around that. And if he thinks you might beat him, he'll just price himself out. As we've seen, you'll find any way to get out of it, any way to wriggle out of having to get in the ring and truly test himself against someone who he doesn't fancy himself against. Everyone was saying Fury is the favourite against Usyk. he is the most likely to win. He's got Usyk beat. He's got Usyk's number. Well, Fury clearly doesn't believe that because he doesn't want the fight. That's why he's priced himself out. That's why the fight isn't happening. This is what happens if you allow a toxic, narcissistic personality to step into the center of your world. And that's what the boxing heavyweight division has got now. A toxic, narcissistic personality draining the division of energy, draining it of credibility, draining it of interest, draining it of relevance. What needs to happen is that the division needs to find a way of separating itself from the toxicity that is Fury. It's not going to be easy, but that's what it needs to do. And when the moment comes, when Tyson Fury finally does retire and allows the heavyweight division to regenerate and to become serious and to step away from this circus car crash situation, which has allowed itself to become, we'll see the sport start to recover. But as long as Fury is at the center of it, it will continue to be a circus. We'll not be able to take it seriously. We'll not be able to have faith in the fact that we're going to get the fights that we want to see. Fury can never be trusted because he has far too much regard for himself and nowhere near enough regard for his competitors or the sport. Let go of this guy. Move away. Don't pay to watch his fights. Do not subscribe. Do not turn up to the stadia that he performs in. He needs to be cut away from this sport. The sport needs to have a chance to recover, to get serious, to recalibrate. It doesn't matter how good he is. It doesn't matter how much natural talent he's got. He has no respect for this industry. And if you do, then do not allow him to continue to draw a living whilst manipulating the public and perpetuating the toxic cycle of his dominance, of the narrative and the airwaves and the energy that this division should not be wasting on someone as unworthy as Tyson Fury.